Hello everyone. So recently the Prime Minister brought up an interesting point in one of his rallies. I think the date was 23rd of May. And in that rally he mentioned that during UPA rule around 9,000 educational institutions were given minority status. This helped them dodge implementing quotas for SC, STs and OBCs. The number is mind-boggling. 9,000 institutions, they become minority institution just to dodge quota given to SC, ST and OBC. This whole thing blew up after my article in the print where I talked about this issue for the first time. That was the only available document. And in this video, I am going to break down the problem and talk about some possible solution. I will give you the background, the backdrop and the whole context, how this whole thing happened and what is the implication, what is the import and how this can be resolved, right? So let's start with the basics, some basic issues. It all started with the National Commission for Minority Educational Institutions Act of 2004. The Act, NCME Act, NCMEI Act, National Commission for Minority Educational Institutions Act. And this act allows authorities to grant minority status to schools or institutions set up by minority groups. Minority groups were defined as religious and linguistic minorities. Right? So whole thing started with NCME Act of 2004. And this act was passed by the parliament in 2004, and you know well that Manmohan Singh government came into power in 2004 only. So again, this allows authorities to grant minority status to educational institutions. Initially, fewer than 600 schools got this status each year. Schools means educational institutions also, some colleges, institutes and etc. But after 2009, things change drastically, right? So the graph looks like this. Let me clean the slate and like this, XY axis, and whole thing started in 2004. So 2005, the NCME started giving minority status. In first year, it gave minority status to 21 institutions, and the number goes like this till 2008, right? So till 2008, the total number of institutions getting minority status was 1781. So annually, the number comes down to around 600. But after 2009 is very important year. So just remember the year 2009. Some interesting things happened that year. So after that, things changed dramatically. The number shot up to over 1,500, almost 1,500 annually, peaking at almost 2,000 in 2012. The sudden spike makes you wonder what happened in 2009 to cause this. What happened in that year? Why did so many schools suddenly want minority status? So I tried to find a solution to the problem, to the puzzle. From what I have seen, and this is the solution I can provide to this puzzle, some elite schools might be using their minority status to get around the Right to Education Act, which was passed in 2009. So 2009 was important because in 2009, Right to Education Act was passed. And before that, the constitution was amended and new article 21A, that's very important, 21A was added in the constitutions through an amendment. So we need to dig deeper to understand why these applications were happening and what it means for educational fairness. The Right to Education Act says schools must set aside 25% of their seats for disadvantaged and poor kids, including those from SC, STs and OBC communities. These kids were supposed to get free and compulsory elementary education. So that is the catch. 25% reservation for two groups, disadvantaged and poor. And in that, disadvantage is defined as SC, ST, OBCs and physically challenged kids. To get around this and keep their elite school status intact, because that is very important for elite schools, some of the schools found minority status to be a blessing, something like godsend. This status exempts them from following the RTE Act and reserving seats for the disadvantaged kids. So once a school becomes minority school, this whole 25% reservation thing goes. Now you can understand what is the rush, why that rush happened to get minority status. Actually, the government was very forthcoming and helping to minority institutions for so many reasons. You know that what happened in 2004 and around that time, I will explain that later. In 2010, the HRD Ministry, now the Ministry of Education, issued an order protecting minority educational rights while implementing the RTE Act. So, protection given to minority institutions from implementing the RTE Act. An amendment in 2012 further exempted these schools from RTE Act. So, again, this ties with the 93rd Amendment Act, which added in a subclause to Article 15, allowing special provisions for backward classes and ST communities, but, very important, excluding minority institutions. So, 93rd Amendment give exemptions to minority institutions to implement SC, ST and OBC quota. So after that, everything was, now you can understand. And interestingly, even big name school like 6 DPS schools have minority status, 3 in Karnataka in Bengaluru, 2 in Madhya Pradesh and 1 in Chhattisgarh. Raipur DPS is a minority institutions. Actually, this goes against the RTE Act's goal of providing the free and compulsory education to all kids. We need very strict rules to make sure these schools don't bypass the law and keep educational access fair to everyone. That was subverted through National Commission of Minority Educational Institutions Act and giving exemptions to minority schools from implementing quota for disadvantaged and poor sections. Actually, this whole business started in, I told you, 2004, and this act was enacted to protect minority educational institutions under Article 31 of the Constitution. After the BJP lost in 2004 elections, the Congress-led UPA started many schemes for minorities. This period saw the Rangnath Commission, the Sachar Commission, and a 5% quota for Muslims in Andhra Pradesh. So UPA 1 and UPA 2, that period was very interesting. So many things happened. 5% quota for Muslims in Andhra Pradesh, National Commission for Minority Institutions, National Commission for Minorities, a separate ministry for minorities, minority status was granted to Jamia, and so many things. 15-point program for minorities was announced in 2006, and after that it was implemented. So whole package was actually rolled out for the Muslims and minorities, so that actually Congress was worried about their bad performance in UP and Bihar, and to take back that vote from Samajwadi Party, BSP, RJD and JDU, they started rolling out these things. So there is a backdrop. So the pace of granting minority status was steady after 2004, as I have already told you. It was not very alarming, but it soon picked up like say mountain sort of thing. And then after BJP came to power in 2014, the slide happened, and now per year only 10 to 12 institutions are getting minority status. So, but that is not the end of the story. There is another twist, is that minority schools are not always serving minority institutions, and that is the biggest problem. They are proclaiming that they are minority institutions, they are getting minority status, and thus they are absolved from giving 25% quota and getting these seats as paid seats, but they are not serving the minority students. A 2021 report from the National Commission for Protection of Child Right, NCPCR, sorry, getting very clumsy, NCPCR, that report actually told that 62.5% of the students in minority schools are from non-minority communities. Now you understand. Every 2 out of 3 students are non-minority in minority institutions. In many of the states like Delhi, Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, in Punjab, actually many of the states, almost half of the states, this number is above 70%. So 70% non-minority students in minority institutions. See the whole irony. And additionally, only 8.76% of the students in these schools are from socially and economically disadvantaged backgrounds, whereas RT Act mandates 25%, minimum 25% seats for disadvantaged and economically backward classes. So that is a big problem. And there is one more twist. Christians, who make around 11.5% of the total religious minority population, accounts for 72% of the religious minority schools. Meanwhile, Muslims, who were around 70% of the minority population, represent only 22.75% of these schools. So again, this highlights big educational inequalities. The NCPCR reports argued that exempting minority institutions from the RTE Act has led to these inequalities, these anomalies, and I would say this is a big scam. And this is because actually some schools actually admitted only elite students. They want to remain elite, they want to preserve their elite status, and that's why they never wanted to have SC, ST, OBC and poor students. And by virtue of being a minority institutions, they are still getting 25% extra paid seat. So this is again an unequal scenario, not a level playing field. Other schools are reserving 25% free seats to SC, ST, OBC and poor kids, whereas minority institutions are getting exemption. So this makes a big business sense to institutions to become minority. So the NCPCR report suggests that extending RT provisions to minority institutions or making similar laws to ensure all kids' right to education can be a way out. We urgently need to rethink the exemptions given to minority institutions under the RTE Act. That can be a solution. Just remove that exemption in clause 12 of the this RTE Act, which allows the minority institutions to not giving admissions to poor and disadvantaged SC, ST, OBC kids. Actually, this whole minority institution thing is a scam because Article 29 of the Indian Constitution rightly allows minority communities to set up and run their educational institutions. Article 30 and 29 and 30, both these articles are related to this. But this should not block Article 21A, which protects every child's fundamental right to education. That is a fundamental right. No fundamental right should be surpassed just because there is a NCMEI Act. Actually, I still don't know how and why the NDA government, Modi government, actually they stopped giving minority status. Rather, they should have changed the act. But anyways, the numbers are now very less. Only 10 or 12 schools or institutions are getting minority status. But there is a whole lot of institutions. I think around the report says that around that is updated up to 2021, and more than 13,000 educational institutions are minority institutions, including Jamia Millia Islamia, including Aligarh Muslim universities. We have to rethink it, actually. Let's hope that the new government will look into it. And thank you so much for listening. I hope that this will become a national agenda and there will be a solution. Thanks again for listening.